Hello friends, welcome to my channel. In previous session we have discussed about CRUD operations in MVC with entity framework by using DB first approach. In today's session we are going to discuss about code first approach in MVC with entity framework. So we are going to use Visual Studio 2019 and SQL Server 2012 in this demo. First we'll see when to use DB first and code first. First we'll see about DB first. When you have to work in project where DB is already created, then we can use the DB first. So DB will be already available. So entire DB objects like tables, stored procedures, views, everything will be available. That time you can use the DB first approach. And when your project is very small, that time you can use the DB first approach. And if you don't have to alter DB objects like columns, stored procedures and views, then we can use the DB first approach. And finally, if you don't want to write classes every time, we can use the DB first because our entity framework will create all the code for classes. Next we'll see the code first. When you have to make your application from scratch, then you have to go for code first approach. So here we will not create any database. So automatically our entity framework will create the database for us based on our model structure. When you don't have a ready-made database, then you have to go for the code first approach. So we are going to create database and tables, everything from the entity framework. You have to work with DB objects frequently, like creating and deleting tables, views and stored procedures. If you are frequently modifying your DB objects like table creation and altering columns, then you have to go for code first approach. Finally, when you have too many tables, views and stored procedures in database, then you have to use the code first approach. This is simple comparison between DB first and code first, when to use DB first and code first, just for your understanding. Now we'll switch to Visual Studio and we'll create a MVC project. Before continuing with this session, I would request you all, please subscribe to my channel and click on bell icon for notification alerts. First we have to create one project. For that I'm using Visual Studio 2019. We have to create a new project. Click on create a new project. We need one ASP.NET web application. You can search it here. Select the ASP.NET web application. Click on next. Here we can provide our project name. I'm giving my project name as code first, and you can provide your physical path where you want to store the project. And if you want to place the project and solution in same directory, you can check this. Otherwise you can uncheck this, and you can select the latest framework which you have. I'm selecting 4.7.2. Click on create. Here you have to select the MVC. We are going to use MVC, and we are going to use HTTP, so we don't want HTTPS. Uncheck this. Click on create. Our project is creating now. Now our project has been created. Go to Solution Explorer. Now we have to create a model for this. Right click on the models. Click on add. Click on class. We are going to create one class for our table. So we have to provide the class name here. It is product. So here we are going to design our table structure. So you can type as property. For that prop, double tap so that it will generate the property for us. And initially I want product ID, and this will be my primary key. And we have to import one namespace. Click on key and press Control dot. We need data annotations. Whenever we are using first column as ID, then it will treat it as primary key. You don't need to provide the key. If you are using other than ID, then you have to provide the key name. Then only it will treat it as primary key. So I need one more property. This will be my product name. I need one more property. This is decimal. I'm going to use price here. Finally, I need one more column for quantity. It will be integer. This is quantity. Here we will apply some validations. This should be required, and we will give some message, error message also. So this is my validation. And also, instead of displaying full name as product name, I want to modify it. For that I will use display name, where this will be inherited from the component model. Now we can provide the name. So instead of displaying product name full name, I want to add one space here. So I want to add required field validator for price also. And finally for quantity. All fields data are required. Quantity is required. So our table structure is ready now. Then we have to add the DB context here. For that I am giving my DB context name as F code first entities. This is my DB context name. Press on DB context, control dot, we have to use entity framework. We don't have entity framework. First we have to add the reference for entity framework. For that, right click on the references, click on manage NuGet packages. Here we have to search for entity framework. Select the entity framework and select the latest stable version. Click on install. Click on OK. We have to accept the license terms. Click on I accept. So now entity framework is installed in our project. We can use this. Now click on DB context, control dot. We have to use the data entity. This will be inherited from the data.entity. Now we have to call our products model class here. For that I have to create one property, and this will be DB set. And here we have to call our model name, that is products. Then here we have to give it as products. So now our context also ready. Now we have to create a connection string in web.config. For that, go to Solution Explorer, double click on web.config. Here we will add connection string. We have to provide the connection string name here, and this connection string name should be our DB context name. This should be the connection string name. You have to give same name here also, otherwise it will not work. Then we have to pass our connection string. First we have to pass our server name. So I'm going to use Windows authentication to connect SQL Server. For that I'm using server name, and this is my SQL instance name. Just copy this and you can paste it here. If you want to use Windows authentication, you give it as dot also, it will work, or you can provide your system name. Then we have to provide our database name. So we have to create database. For that I am giving database name. This is my database name. And whenever we are going to use Windows authentication, we have to provide integrated security. This is not case sensitive. You can use whatever you want. And finally, one more important thing is we have to provide the provider name here. That is, we are going to use SQL Server. For that, we will provide the provider name as system.data.SQL client. So we have created our connection string. Two important things here. One is this connection string name should be our DB context name, and second one is we have to provide the provider name, that is whatever the database you are going to use, that provider name we have to provide here. Now we'll switch to SQL Server. I'm going to use Windows authentication. If you want to use SQL Server authentication, you can use it by providing login and password. At present I am using Windows authentication. If you have multiple SQL instance, you have to provide the SQL instance name. Otherwise, you can provide only server name. That's enough. Also, you can provide dot instead of this server name. Click on connect. It's connected to database server. Expand the databases. Here we don't have any database called EF, whatever this name, EF code first. See here, we don't have any database. Now by using entity framework, we are going to generate our database as well as this table. For that, tools, look at package manager console, clear it off. So here we have to enable migrations. We have to migrate this table structure as well as DB to our SQL Server. For that I am using enable migrations. This is not case sensitive. You can use like this also. Enable migrations. Enter. So it's checking is there any existing database is available in the SQL Server or not. So all the checks are completed. It's enabled the migration now. Now we have to add the migration, and here we have to provide some name for our identification. For that, product table created. I'm giving name as this one, and you can give any name here, not a problem. Enter again. After migration, we have to update the database. So this is very important one. If you are not updating, it will not update it to your SQL Server. Enter now. After updating only you can access the database. Like this, whenever we are altering any table, whenever we are altering stored procedure, we have to add the migration like this, and finally we have to update the database. So now everything is completed. So earlier, as we discussed, we don't have the database called EF code first. Now we'll switch to SQL Server and we'll see whether this DB is created or not. Right click on the databases, refresh here. See, our database has been created, and expand the tables. So our tables also created here. We created 4 columns. So all the columns has been created here. Now I want to add one more column to this table. For that, we no need to create here. We will go to our product class. This is our model class. We will create one more property here. I'm going to add one column here, that is remarks. So I added column to the model. Now again we have to add the migration. Whenever we are doing any changes, we have to add the migration and we have to update the database. These two things are important. What we have to do, add migration. So I'll give the name as remarks column added. Enter. So now we have to update the database. So now our changes are updated. Now we'll switch to SQL Server again, refresh on the database, expand it, tables, expand the table called products, see the columns now. So our remarks column also added to the database. So like this we can use the code first approach. Now go to our solution explorer. See here, whatever the migrations we are doing, everything is created here. First we created the product table. That time it's created two functions. This is the responsible for creating a table, and this is the responsible for dropping a table. So like this, whenever we are doing migration, one file will be created. See here, second one we added the remarks column. Here this is the command for adding column. So if you want to drop the column means this function will be executed from entity framework. We will create a controller here. For that, right click on the controllers, click on add controller. We are going to use controller with views using entity framework. By using this, entity framework will generate code for us. So we no need to write code for create, read, update and delete. Automatically code will be generated. For that I am using this. Click on add. Here we have to select the model class. Our class is products, and then we have to select the DB context also. This is our DB context. Here controller name we have to provide products controller. Click on add. So by using scaffolding mechanism, entity framework will generate views for us. Now our product controller has been created. Also it's generated all the views for CRUD operations. First we'll open the product controller, what it contains. It's created the DB entity. Here multiple action methods are generated by the entity framework. We will see one by one. By using this method we can access all the products from the product table, and this is the details method where we can access the details based on ID, that is product ID. Here this ID is nullable. Here if it is ID is null, then it will throw the error. If it is not null, then it will find that ID based record, then it will be displayed here. Suppose if product is not available with this ID, then it will throw the error here. Then finally this is the create, where it will give the empty template to create the record. If you want to see the view, right click on this method, go to view. So this is the code will be generated by create action method. So it will be empty form for data entry. So then this is the create method. Here we are using post method. If we are not using any method here, it will be HTTP GET by default. So here we are going to use the post method because we are going to save the data into the database, and all the columns will be called here, and whenever it is model state is valid, it will be added the product class and it will save the changes. Finally it will redirect to our index method. Then next is edit. Edit also like details. Based on ID, record will be edited. So if ID is null, it will throw the error. If ID is not null, it will search the product list by using the ID. If it is not null, it will redirect here. If there is any null, that means that product is not available in the database. So then it will throw the HTTP not found error. So again, whenever we are editing the data, so it will post the changes to the database. Here we are going to save the modified data. That's why we are changing the entity state to modified. Here we will save the changes. Finally we will redirect to index method, and here we are returning the products. So delete, here also we are going to delete based on ID. We will search for the product based on this ID. If it is null, then we will throw the HTTP not found error. Otherwise we will return to view. So this is the HTTP post method for delete. Here we will find the data and we will remove the data from the specified table and we will save the changes. So don't confuse with the two methods. Wherever HTTP post is there, we are going to save the data. Wherever post is not there, by default it will be HTTP get. We are just accessing the data for display purpose only. Now we'll run the application first. First we'll access index method. So this is our home page for products. You can create the product here. We can add the price here. First we'll test whether validations are working or not. Try to create. So our validations are working fine. Here we have to enter the product name, then price. Then remarks if anything you want. Click on create. So our record is created here. If you want to edit this, save. So we are able to update the data. If you want to see the details, we are able to try to click on delete. You can delete the data. So we are able to perform all our CRUD operations. So then we will apply Bootstrap styles to our application. First we will change the layout. Go to shade, layout. I want to change my application name. MVC with code first. This is my application name and I want to add one action link here for our product. This is the display name, product master. This will be our index name. And this will be our controller name. So our controller name is products. Is fine. Then we will add some styles to our CRUD operations also. I'll add Bootstrap style to this back to list hyperlink also. There is no parameter. I have to add one new class. Here I want to add btn success. So I'll copy. We are going to reuse this. Then delete also I will modify. Delete product. Just I'm applying Bootstrap styles, that's it. Danger I'm giving. And for this also we will apply these styles. Here instead of success I will apply primary. So this one also I will make it as primary. Then details. This will be product details. I don't want this. For this edit also we are going to give the style. This is success, then this will be primary. Just you can use based on your requirement. You can add the Bootstrap styles so that it will look nice. Finally edit edit product, we don't want this. Finally, index also we have to modify. So I don't want this index. For this, create product. For this, edit details and delete hyperlinks also, we will change the style. Then this will be success. And finally, danger. That's it, we added all the styles. Now we will go to our browser, reload the page. So there is a compilation error. So here we added extra comma. So we remove that. Just reload the page again. Yeah, it's loading perfect. It's going inside our nav bar. For that, I'll apply one break here. Just reload it. It's perfect. This is our project name and this is our master. And now we will create the product. So create. So it's created. For delete, style is not applied. We'll see. There is a spelling error. Just reload now. Yes, it's showing perfectly. See these three buttons. Size wise, these are not equal. For that, we will add one custom CSS. For that, what I will do, go to content, where our all CSS are located. Right click on the content folder, add. So we are going to add style sheet. We have to provide style sheet name here. I'm giving custom CSS. And here we are going to add some custom styles. I want to add it for my button style. Here I want to give the width as 60 pixel. The height also I want to provide here. That's it. Now we have to include this CSS inside our layout. Otherwise it will not load. So go to end of the page. Here we have to drag and drop this custom CSS so that we can use these styles in our project. So now we will apply that custom style also, that is BTN style. Now reload the page. See, now everything is equal. Now we'll check in the different devices. Just reduce the size See here, it's getting very close to edit button. This is also we can fix it here. So margin top I will add it, that is 2 pixel I will add. Now reload the form. See, now it's perfect. So like this you can use the Bootstrap controls in MVC. We are going to add one more product. Create. So it's created perfectly. Now everything perfect. We'll switch to SQL Server and we'll see the data whether it's saving or not. Select store from our product table, that is products. So all the data are stored as we expected. See. So that's it for today. If you like this video, please like and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.